Hi, I'm Robin Pickens, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about getting prepared to do the Oak Grove Square quilt. This is a pattern that I developed along with the Forest Frolic fabric that Moda Fabrics produces. And this is a big quilt based on a medallion idea with blocks in the center going out in radiating squares from the center. As you can see on this one behind me, in the middle we've got the mushrooms, then acorns, then some leafy vines with oak leaves, and then the very outer row has got oak leaves and aspen leaves. So the quilt that's on the cover here, this one is made with two different background colors. It's got buttermilk and caramel for the background colors. The one that's behind me actually has three different colors. It has mocha, cinnamon, copper, and another band of mocha. The way the pattern's written, you can make this quilt with all four of the rings in different colors, or you can make them all for the same color, or you can do a combination like I've done. The specs on the back show you doing it for these two ways. If you wanted to do four different fabrics, I have the specs for that on my blog at robinpickens.com. And if you look up Oak Grove Square or under sew-alongs, you'll be able to see that. I'll also post an image in the pattern play category, so it'll take you to that blog post. So for this, when I'm getting started, I like to do a couple things so that I can organize because there's a lot of pieces in this quilt. One of the things that I do is I make up some lists that I can cut out so I can label my fabrics with which fabric they are. I also like to pre-cut some of the pieces and put them in separate little bags and label which block these pieces will be for. So that's for that. I usually work with a chart that shows me the fabrics. This one I printed off the computer because I'm going to be making a version of this all in thatched. But in a normal situation, I would have an open chart like this, and I would add in little swatches of fabric as I'm deciding what's going to go where, and then I would refer back to this as I'm making my pattern. So all of these are on the Facebook group in the files section, the Facebook group Robin Pickens So Happy Community, and I'll also add them to the blog. The other thing that I do because of having a lot of pieces is I like to have a chart which I can cross off and keep track of which pieces I've made, which pieces still need to be made, and that way I can see how far along I am in the process. I mentioned that I am doing this in a different colorway. I am doing this in a thatched version that is colorful fall. This is also a light-hearted fall palette. As well as that, I've got this more springtimey palette with a lot of different colors. And there's another one that has a dark background. This one is the dark drama where it is on soft black with still some of the fall and dramatic colors. So I do have kits of some of these available in my shop. If you'd like to take a look at Robin Pickens Incorporated, you can also get the pattern there as a PDF download or a printed pattern. So let's get started on some of the specifics about cutting. So the pattern is arranged so that these sections will tell you, and it's labeled on them, what the pieces are for. So for example, this will say that it is for the mushroom caps, for the aspen leaves. I like having it organized this way so that if I want to switch out fabrics, or if you want to switch out fabrics, you can easily go to it and say, for my mushroom caps, I'm going to be using all polka dotted fabrics. You can easily find it listed here and know exactly what fabric you need to be taking the mushroom caps out of. This also makes it easier to cut things by the section because I do this project by section A, B, C, and D, which is starting from the center going out on the backgrounds. So that also means that I cut the background separately. So I'm going to be cutting background A or background B, background C, background D. So I don't like to have that many pieces cut all at the beginning. Some people like to cut everything. That's great, and you should work the way you want to. I like to cut it by the section. So I'm going to cut just my fabric A. One way that I can do this is cut everything and label the pieces. And when I do that, like here I did it for leaf press, I also use like an egg carton. And with a Sharpie, I will mark the sizes of the pieces on here for me to help, keep it straight. And when I'm looking for a piece that I can find it. So I'll keep a lot of different cut pieces that way. Or I can do a cut as you go method. And so for that, what I do is I'm cutting strips, the width of fabric from the yardage that I bought. So here's my 2 selvage ends, right? And it's folded. I've cut this the width that I want according to my cutting directions, because I'm going to tell you to cut a width of fabric strip and then what gets cut out of that strip. Then I'm going to take one of these labels and I'm going to pin it to the folded end of the fabric. I'm not going to pin it to the selvage end because I'm probably going to trim off the selvage and I'm going to start cutting from this end. And if I need 4 of a piece, it's already folded in half. I'm going to cut 2 and 2, and that's going to be more efficient cutting. I can just leave even a group of these pinned together and just pull one off as I need and cut from it. But this is really handy if you go to a class and you can pre-cut some of the fabric, but you don't have to have everything pre-cut in advance. If you can at least cut the width of fabric strips, that means that you won't have to go over to a bigger cutting surface. You can probably have a smaller cutting mat right at your workstation that you can work from, and it's a lot more efficient for a class, and you're already like halfway ready to go. So I will cut my width of fabric pieces for whichever background it is I'm using at the time. Then the next thing that I will do is, and I will use these things to label them, right? The next thing I'll do is I'll look at what is my biggest piece. I want to cut the largest pieces first. And so I'm going to look and cut all of this top row. I'm going to cut the next row. With this leftover piece, the fact that I can visually see what all these pieces are in here, I can easily make a decision that when I get down to the bottom here, I can actually cut these pieces out of this leftover. So when I start with the biggest pieces first, I know I'm going to get those pieces out of the fabric. The chances are I can get the smaller pieces fit in from little leftovers, and so that's going to be the most efficient way for me to use my fabric. I'm going to cut my fabrics. I'm going to have them either labeled in something like this or with Post-it notes, or I might put them in baggies. As I also cut for the individual blocks like this, I will take and put these things in baggies. So I know that when I get to doing my aspen leaves, here are all my pieces for the aspen leaves. Here are pieces for some of my leaf press ones that I keep together when I've cut them. When I piece my blocks, I have some pieces left over still that's going to be for the joining of these pieces. Those I'm going to go ahead and just put in a bag and save them. And I'm going to put this A in here so I know this is background A and I can find it later. And as I'm also making my blocks, like I made my mushroom blocks, they are out of background A. I'm going to go ahead and store my mushroom blocks in with my leftover pieces of background A so that that's ready for me to go when I am joining that. Another thing with the cutting of fabric, I do like to use a big long ruler. I have a number of different 24.5-inch rulers. This one happens to be 8.5 inches wide. I really like having a little bit of a wider ruler because I feel like when I am pressing on this, I get to hold that fabric more steady when I make my with the fabric cuts going from selvage to selvage folded in half. So I do like that. When I get to cutting a lot of the pieces that are, let's say these smaller pieces, like here, I'm going to be cutting, let's say on the next one, I need 56 1.5 by 1.5 inch. This is when I'm really going to put into use my Stripology ruler. And with this ruler, what I do is I make my with the fabric cuts. I look at what I'm needing. I'm able to use the Stripology ruler, put it down on that with the fabric cut, across with the piece folded, cuts it in no time. So all those pieces go really, really fast. I didn't bring it out, but I also have the newer stripology ruler from Creative Grids, which goes to 1/4 inch increments, and love it because there are a lot of cuts that might be 2 3/4 or 2 1/4, and that one goes to the 1/4 inch measurements, and it's really handy, makes the cutting a lot more efficient. So I hope that this helps with you getting organized and getting ready, and that you are able to download some of the tools for organizing, which hopefully will, help you with what you're doing. I do have mocha fabric coming in so that I'm able to make a few more kits that are in this colorway, but I did see that Sewing Arts in Santa Monica has kits of them that they've just listed. And I'm also going to try mocking this up in my new Christmas line that'll be shipping next summer, and I want to see how it looks done in Christmas colors. So I hope you're able to get your fabric, start cutting, sew along with us. I did get started in September. It's not too late to hop in. We just did mushrooms then, and I had to pause because of going to Quilt Market, and so I'm just getting back to it now. So please join me for a little bit of fall sewing. Thanks.